Welcome back, guys. Let's talk about a product requirement document, a PRG. This is a document that every product manager that I know is probably thinking about in every waking moment. It's a document that you are going to keep writing and writing because it basically outlines all the features, all these functionalities, all the specifications of a product that you're trying to build. Any feature that you're trying to build, you end up writing a product requirement document for it. The product requirement document serves like a guide. It serves as a guide for the product development team, and it helps you ensure that everybody is in sync with what you're trying to build. So as a product manager, you are almost always writing a PRD, especially when you're building new features, when you're building iteratively. When you're writing a PRD, you define your problem, you define the target audience, you define your features, and then you define your user experience. What I mean by that is, so all those things you've been writing since we started this course. Remember, you wrote your problem statement, you defined your persona, you written user stories. This is the document that now brings all those things together to define the experience that you're trying to build. So to write a product document, to write a product requirement document, what you can start with, I have a simple template that you can use. You can use this template I'm sharing with you here, where you write the glossary of terms. What that means is, what term do you want people to be able to understand when you're defining a product? Like, oh, is this a new term that you need to explain? In my case, I can decide to define who a job seeker is. I can define who an employer is. I can define what a menial job is, just to give you like a general idea of some terms that you might use in your document. That's what the glossary of terms basically encapsulates. For the user persona part of this document, you bring that user persona that you created for whoever you have spoken to, the fictional character you've created based on your interviews, based on your research, bring together and then put it under this user persona part. So it's the description of your target user for this product, their demographic information, their goals, and their pain points. You've written this before, so you just bring it into this document, in this template. Then your problem statement, you've defined it when you're writing your point of view statement. Then you bring that together and then put it in the same document. And then if you add any user flows or prototype that you've already developed, you can also add it to this document. And then you talk about the product and your feature description. You can put, what you've been doing so far, what you're planning on building, what you've decided that, okay, this is the solution that we're going to do. Like, you describe it in detail before you now break it down into smaller bits. So when you're breaking down to smaller bits, that's when you do your user story. And when you're writing your user story, you also include your acceptance criteria. So the acceptance criteria is basically the rules and the requirement that needs to be followed for a particular user story to be done. So for you to say that, okay, I'm done with the user story, I've built this feature successfully, you have to follow the acceptance criteria, those rules that you set at the beginning on your product document needs to be followed. So those are what acceptance criteria are. So you also can include other things like what are the risks and your dependencies and all that. But I've shared a simple template for you. You will see it in the next quiz so that you can duplicate it and then create yours. Now, let me share with you what the product requirement document for my case study is. Let's take a look at it. I've decided to name my product Get Person. The name of the product is Get Person, and the goal of this product is basically to connect menial job seekers to employers, as we've said earlier. So in my glossary of terms, I basically defined who a job seeker was. I said it's a person looking for employment. An employer is a person or organization that employs people. Menial job is a job that is considered low-skilled, low-paid, and often requires little education or training. I've defined those terms so that whenever I'm mentioning it in the course of this document, someone will be able to understand it. Therefore, user persona, I brought Lola Ade's user persona into this document. We've talked about that before. I've shown you what a user persona was about. I brought it into this document and I added it. And then the problem statement, we talked about our problem statement. I said menial job employers need a quick and efficient way to find reliable domestic workers who are available at short notice because they want trustworthy people who are in their vicinity without having to spend excessive time and resources on recruitment processes. That's my problem statement. Simple and straightforward. Then the product and our feature description. We decided that, like, in our concept development, we decided that we are trying to build a web app that allows people to, job seekers and employers, to meet. So our platform is designed to address the needs of job seekers for menial tasks and employers who require their services. We are building a web app that will serve as a bridge between these two parties, enabling them to connect and communicate in a seamless and efficient manner. Now, we've talked about the minimum viable product, right? In this document, I'm just going to like touch point on what our minimum viable product is. So I said our MVP will provide a basic set of features that will help job seekers find relevant job listings and apply them, and yada, 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 yada. And once someone reads this, they will be able to understand what I'm trying to build. Like, it's very clear. If a developer picks this up, even if they were not in conversation with me or my customer, my potential user, they will pick this document up and they understand what we're trying to build. So the MVP would include the following features: job seeker profile, job listing, search and filter, application submission, an employer dashboard, and a job seeker dashboard. I went ahead to add a little explanation to that. Then I've added my user stories. I mean, we've talked about some of these user stories before. Saying, as a millennial job seeker, I want to be able to create a profile of my personal information and skill sets so that I can apply for relevant job listing and showcase my qualifications to potential employers. And in my acceptance criteria, I wrote that, this user should be able to enter their name and their address, their phone number, and whatever skill set that they have. That, the system that is taking in this data should be able to validate the email address or a valid format of the user location. Now, I put email address, but I might come back to like update this document and say, okay, if someone is low skilled, they might not be able to create an email address. So, let's use the phone number to verify them instead. So this PRD is also subject to updates as you go, as you continue like iteratively building. It's all definitely subject to change. Remember, in Agile methodology, I meant that we are always responding to change over rigid procedures, right? This is where change comes in. Like, you realize, I've dropped the ball or something, or the customer might need this instead. This is a reason why this might not fly. Then you change that, you update your PRD so that your developers, your development team basically knows what needs to change. So that's what that's what a PRD basically hopes to accomplish. To give information to people who are not in meeting with you and your customers, to make sure that everybody's on the same page and everybody knows what you're trying to build. So this PRD serves as a guiding principle as you build. So once you create a user story, once you're talking with your designer, you always refer back to your PRD. So all these documents you've been trying to write since the beginning of this course, this is where you all collect it. You collect this document, you collect it together to create this product requirement document. And like I said, the product requirement document is something the product manager always writes. You're writing it for any feature that you're trying to build. Usually, a product requirement document doesn't have to be bulky. You can break it down with feature. You can write a product requirement document for each feature that you're trying to build. So you don't have to write it for the product as a whole, or you can create it in such a way that you can keep adding new product documents to it, adding as you go, as you continue building, as you build iteratively. So this is what the product requirement document basically does.